give us a feel then as you went into the law and also the area of conservation. You were chair of the board of TPL and you served on that board, Trust for Public Land, for many, many years. And you also did extraordinary conservation work in Georgia and particularly in Atlanta. So give us a feeling how this work with land conservation and law and these great institutions also inspired you to give so generously in service to our collective future of good land trust.
Well, I would add one other thing on the faith journey. I had an uncle Carl who graduated from YDS, who taught Greek at Wake Forest for 25 years. And Carl never had a class more than 12 students, didn't drive, didn't use the telephone.
Mm,
Um, but when he died at 80 something, there were over 300 people at his funeral because he was just such an extraordinary human being. And he
mm,
always told me, he said, Chris, I am a minister without a shingle. And he says that's a role that we all should be playing if you're fully in faith, the Christian faith.
mm.
So that has always had a huge meaning to me. Not only is it okay to think big, which I kind of do more naturally sometimes, but just your touch with other people can have such an impact on their lives and give them encouragement and be positive and want to do good things. So, anyway, that was part of the combination of the learning I've received early in my life, which I so appreciate. But going to conservation, part of that's just that. I had become president of the Atlanta Bar when I was 39. So at 40, when I stepped down, I was, after doing bar work for 10 years, which is something I learned a lot from. And we're grateful for the opportunity. But I just said, well, done bar work, and now I'm gonna go do something else. And by that time, I had decided, really what you like being is outdoors. So you should go do something that makes the outdoor better for everybody. And so I'd already known about the concept, the Nature Conservancy, and then I all of a sudden heard about the Trust for Public Land. And literally in a 2 week period of time, I was asked by TNC to go on their Georgia board, and then the Trust for Public Land announced that they were opening an office in Atlanta, and they had hired this Rand Wentworth to come in and do it. And so I met both people, the chair of the TNC board and Rand, and I was crazy about Rand. He's a Yale grad and turned out to be just a savant genius. And so he and I co-founded TPL Georgia, and I would think since then we've probably done $400 million worth of conservation projects in the state. Rand went on at my urgings to become president of the Land Trust Alliance, and my penalty for that was going on their national board for 9 years. And then TPL, after a couple of years of running the Georgia program, they put me on their advisory board. And then in 94, I went on their national board in San Francisco and then became the chairman in 96 and did that for 8 years. And during that period, we grew TPL considerably. In fact, when we finished, we had raised just under $1 billion and had conserved about 100. I'm sorry, just under 1 million acres is parklands in America. And for those that don't know, Trust for Public Land, we conserve land for people.
Mhm.
Nature Conservancy, it concerns land to protect the endangered species, flora or fauna, as they like to say. Both are fabulous organizations.
Mhm.
So anyway, I got into that, and you say, well, what was the thing about the parks that really pulled you? And I said, well, I just think parks are one of the greatest things in America and in the world. And it's because everybody gets to use them. So, it's not just for rich white males. It's for any and everybody. I would tell you that our distribution of parks has been scaled towards the wealthier sides of our community. But over the last 15 years, TPL has led the effort to change that and get parks more equitably distributed. And I think we're being very successful with that. But at the end of the day, it's a gift to everybody in the community. And so not only that have I learned over and over and over again. I mean, everybody likes a good park. And but in addition to that, to the people that want to create parks for the most part are people that love something so much that they're willing to give up their time to improve the life of others, whether it's by saving a historical center like the MLK birth home, which we saved at the Trust for Public Land, or it's a historical monument like the Brown v. Board of Education high school in Kansas, which we saved, so that that school will be a marker that this has happened in America and this is where it occurred. Which also I learned early on with TPL when we did these historical markers that the first one was up in Lexington, Massachusetts. We added about 100 acres to the Minuteman Park there, and the fellow that the ranger that gave us the introduction when we went up there for the opening, he explained, he said, y'all don't understand this place. He said, you got to understand this is where the Revolutionary War in America comes from. And he says, if you don't think that's important, just understand that we're being just, you've got waves and waves of Eastern Europeans coming in here now all the time because the wall is down and they're looking and saying, did it really happen the way we read about it? And they come here and they can touch and feel history. And that sends them back confident that they can do that. So there's a lot of learning in doing parks. And then there's a lot of play, a lot of recreation, a lot of health. And so all of those things are great things to do. I've now, I don't know how many thousands of people I've helped bring into all of this, but it's I've never met anybody that came in and said, "Boy, I really regretted setting up all those parks with you guys over the years." They all look at me and say, "Thank you for giving me one of the most wonderful things I've ever been able to participate in my lifetime." And so, that's why I continue to do it. There's no downside, there's no regret. And you got a lot of happy people when you do it. And also, by the way, to do all the things I've just described, you got to build a community. And that's something where church people, um, really can help us. In fact, that's one thing that led me to try to build something between YDS and the School of Environment up there. Just because I kept going to all these openings and I never saw any people people that went to church participated in it, but I never saw any church leadership being, extended. And I kept thinking all this time back in the late 90s and the early 2000s, what in the world is wrong? I mean, I was also clerk of the session for Presbyterian Church in Atlanta around 91, I think, large church. And so why aren't we doing park work? I mean, what else gets more to who we are than that? It's about creation, conserving the land in a wise way, and it's history, it's justice, it's all those issues. And so anyway, that's what we tried to do, and we're now accomplishing that, I think, at YDS with Mary Evelyn and John's leadership in great ways. So
Well,
it's a little bit rambling, but hopefully it gives you
no,
a
it's
flavor.
fantastic. It's such a great story. I've worked with Trust for Public Land as well, and Will Rogers and a whole group that was so impressive just to underscore what you've said, that it's very much land and people, it's inner city parks in our urban centers and so on. And as Ken Burns said in his series, this is one of our greatest creations, right? Parks.
And right now, Mary Evelyn, we're going a step further in many ways.